Yesterday, Donald J. Trump was sworn back in as President of the United States, the most powerful position in the whole world. And he is sworn to be pro-crypto and make the U.S. the crypto capital of the world. Now, what does that mean for crypto? Well, so far, I don't know about you, but I haven't seen any executive orders related to crypto. So let's dig deeper into the price action today and see what the market suggests may play out. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. Now, if you, like me, came into crypto because you realize there's potential here for life-changing gains over a greater 4 to 8 year period, and you're looking for discussions on becoming a solid, unshakable, savage crypto investor, like a Navy SEAL of crypto investing, well, then you're in exactly the right place and with the right family, the Rainmaker family. Now, the reason I created this channel is because, well, I was once new to crypto myself, almost 8 years ago. And back then I was looking for a crypto channel and a group that understood crypto as an investment and discussed the most important things, like the 4-year crypto investment cycle, specific projects, the pros and cons of those projects, the risks of those projects, the guess upside if it came together well. And I didn't find that in the way I really needed that information. So we created it. And I say we because it's not just me anymore. It's a family of Rainmakers. And you see them here in the chat. You will see them in our free Telegram group. There is a link to that below. And you will definitely find them in our private Patreon group. There's also a link to that below. Now, private Patreon group allows you access to the Rainmakers private Discord. And the Rainmaker private Discord is where the best discussion and very best information is. There are many other benefits too, but you would have to join us to find out. Do note, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. I know we normally do this on Wednesdays. We had to make a schedule change to today. Paul will be joining us, of course, and Paul invests in many different markets, not just crypto. And I love hearing from him what is going on in all these other markets, because realize that money flows from one place to another. It doesn't just magically appear. So the money flows you can see across different markets when they're coming into crypto, sometimes when they're going out. Well, if you haven't already, make it rain on that like button and help me welcome Paul to the channel.
Great Paul. To be here on a Tuesday or Wednesday. Thank you for making the change, and thanks for everybody for changing your schedule around. I think it's a very important day, actually, given that we've just seen the inauguration of Trump and what's going on in the markets. I think we need a bit of clarity. But as we were talking offline about how it's not a particularly good look for Trump to be seen to be, well, I actually, the details of this coin and whether he's actually behind this coin or not, I just don't know. I haven't paid any attention to it. I've just heard people talking about it going up, and on X, people saying that they're going to short it, which I think would be exactly the right thing to do as soon as he's inaugurated. Short the thing, because it's going to come off. But it seems to have had a wider move, which I think partly is due to that. I think people are right. A bit of liquidity has been taken out, but partly is this is the moment that everyone was waiting for, for Trump to come in and be pro-crypto. So it's one of these buy the rumor, sell the facts situations. So everything's coming back a little bit. I think we need to put that into context. The only positive I can say out of the Trump coin, which I think we both agreed that this is not a good look for him, and it's not right, is that if he's going to play in crypto, and his wife's going to play in crypto, and his kids are going to play in crypto, then it in some ways gives other people a green light to trade in crypto, and it kind of legitimizes it a bit more, which if the SEC or someone was going to come after one person for being in crypto, well, they're going to have to come after the president as well. So I just think that type of activity may actually spark some further interest down the road, where people are like, what's this about Trump coin? And how do you trade in it? And what are they doing? It's all this is, as I see it, advertising. Now, it's not good advertising, but sometimes bad news can actually work in your favor. Strangely enough, all news is good news, as they sometimes say in the advertising world. So I think further down the line, it might end up being a positive, even though it's we all feel a bit uneasy about it.
Yeah, uneasy is a good word. I'm not a big fan of meme coins because they're just basically a fad, and they're playing on fads. And I didn't love the launching of these. And I mean, in some ways, it's a great thing for those that like to buy on discount because it pushed the prices down on so many tokens. So you get a chance to buy on a big discount. And that's always a good thing. I don't love, I mean, I see meme coins as just fad coins, and I don't love money flowing out of really solid projects into fads, but that's just a personal preference. You could say I'm a little bit snobby towards meme coins, and it just is what it is. I like higher probability plays, and meme coins are just playing the fads, and some people are really good at gauging sentiment, which is what you need for fad analysis or trading on fads. I would rather do business analysis because it's a little bit easier to understand given my background and just a little bit more predictable. If you find a really good team, really good narrative, your predictability of success is just higher than, playing musical chairs with meme coins, which isn't my game. Now, I've tried that before. I tried that back in 2018, 2019, 2020, and it just didn't work out as well as the path I took. So there's a reason I'm in the path that I am. Trump coin and Melania coin, there'll probably be like a Baron coin next. So like, just realize that Melania's coin sucks some of the liquidity out of Trump coin is like the next thing. And then if Baron coin comes out, might do the same thing, whatever. Interesting, right? Totally unexpected. I didn't expect that to happen. Saw it go crazy, which is funny in some senses. Meme coins aren't my favorite, so I was like, nah, yawn. Let's get to the real business, right? Let's look for some Trump executive orders. Let's look for what the stock market is going to do, what the dollar is going to do, what's going to happen on the bigger scene of things. Is crypto going to continue its bull run like it's supposed to do in 2025? Or what is going to happen? And we didn't get a lot of clarity on that other than a big pullback from the inauguration. But like you always say, buy the rumor and sell the fact. And it was probably a really good example of that.
Yeah, I mean, underlying, there's no issues. The trouble is that when you're trading altcoins, the swings are absolutely huge, and this is the thing where it's the most risky of the most risky space that you can find, unless you want to trade the debt of some African bond markets. So it's and stocks. I mean, it really is. So people have to understand that it's so you're going to get these big swings, and that's why we say when the market's going up in a smooth way, that's much better than the market moving fast. It's great to see something up by 10 or 20% in a day, but it can also come down by 20% or 10 or 20% in a day. But the overall trends are still positive. The macro scene is still, the stock market's going up. We've got some interesting things to look at in terms of the dollar. Chris asked a question last week that we didn't quite get round to about inflation and whether that meant the dollar was going to be going up. And we could have a little look at what's happening there, because I think a few interesting things are going on that are worth looking at. And there is a lot of disparity in opinions as to what will happen with the dollar, but this could be the next point that moves everything higher. So, and we're still I know it's the January's ending now, but this is where January's always a bit of a strange month. It's a strange month because volumes are low, liquidity is low, and it takes a lot of professional traders a while to see where the land lies before they want to step in. So I think the next couple of weeks are going to be more interesting as we transition into February, and then we'll be able to see what sort of trends we're dealing with. Are we dealing with a correction, a bigger correction, or is this just going to squeeze further? And regardless, the big picture is still bullish. So I don't think anything's going to change there.
Yeah, absolutely. I often say 2 steps forward, 1 step back, even during a bull run. Well, that's how bull runs usually play out. Sometimes 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. So, I mean, that's kind of what we've seen with the overall market is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Bitcoin and some of the other things have been running.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Bitcoin, as long as Bitcoin is moving higher, I don't see that there's a big problem. And it might not feel like that, but if everything was turning down and things were breaking important support levels, then I would have a problem. But the overall trends are still up. Shall I go into the charts or
Yeah, let's do it.
yeah. So, you know, as we always do, we start off. Let's see if I can just make that a bit bigger there. I'm operating on one screen today, so that's why I made it a bit smaller. So here we have the Dow Jones, and we talked about possible high around here, and it's come off a bit, and now it's rebounded back. This could be a reversal pattern, maybe a head and shoulders pattern. Not sure. We've just got really good support of 41,000. If it breaks that, we're going to go a bit lower. But come on, the trend has been really strong, and any pullback, even down to sort of over around 40 or even a bit more, would still be consistent with the bull market. So I don't think that there's at any stage at this point there may be a correction, but the trend is still up. So S&P much closer to the all-time high. In fact, maybe this is what's going to happen over the next week or two. It's going to take this high out, and off we go. That's looking bullish. Nasdaq, same deal. It's just consolidating. That even could be what we call a flag formation before this squeezes up again. So Russell 2000, that's moving up. Many people had written this off. Many people around here were saying it was going to crash and go lower, and it's not worth buying, but it's still pressing higher. Okay, it's not accelerating like some of the other markets, but it's doing okay. So the equity markets are doing fine. Gold looks like it's going to break higher, which usually accompanied by a weaker dollar, although we haven't seen that, but gold is in itself moving higher. Silver's moving higher. We've got copper's moving higher. Aluminium is breaking out. There's a lot of bullish trades here. There's a lot of bullish underlying what you describe as things that people need to buy for their economy, for the economy to be doing well. These things are doing well. They're going up. Now, will interest rates be cut? I don't know, but maybe they won't be cut in the next move in January. But the short-term interest rate futures are still predicting downwards. This chart still looks negative. 3-month and 6-month is still in a downward trend. This hasn't turned around yet. So maybe the surprise is going to be that rates go lower. This is a 2-year chart. Now, this could be a big head and shoulders pattern. And if it is, this is the left shoulder, this is head, this is the right shoulder. If this turns down, starts heading towards 3.5%, that would set the market on fire. It really would set the market on fire. So I think the overall people are worried about inflation. They're worried about rates not being cut. It's not a view without foundation. It's definitely possible, but I'm looking at the high impact, low probability of something else happening, and that happens quite often, more often than you might think, where the market just gets so blindsided by its view they forget that actually the Fed changed their view all the time. I wonder if Trump wants to really do something other than tariffs, because tariffs are a weapon that other people can inflict on you. If he really wants to get the economy going, and he does want to get the economy going, if he gets rates down, then things are going to take off, because the party's already running, and it's going to create a whole load of liquidity. So I think this could be really interesting. Now,
I like that idea, lighting the whole market on fire.
Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of thing he wants to do. I mean, he's this right. Let's do it. You can just see him say, "Yeah, cut rates, just cut them, and let's go." And not think about what the consequences are, which is we're going to have a massive party and then a big hangover, and the hangover could be quite large. But we're going to enjoy the party as it runs. So with regard to the dollar, it's not gone any higher since, I suppose, fears of the tariffs were announced, and it's been running up, and stronger data that Chris was pointing out from inflation CPI. It's not moved any higher. So that to me is intriguing, and it also kind of tallies in with what Trump's going to do with tariffs, and that's partly why the dollar's gone up. But also, look at the Middle East; they've signed a peace agreement. So, this is what we would expect. This is what we're expecting, that there would be an agreement, and the premium in the US dollar would start to fade away. Now, it's still a little bit early days, and maybe on the non-farms call, I was a bit early to say do it then. It took the CPI number. Actually, the CPI number should have sent the market higher. This is why it's interesting, and it's gone lower. And that to me is an interesting disparity that could develop further. So I'm thinking that maybe maybe a week or so will tell us whether this really wants to go up. It looks like it's topping out, and if we look at the previous tops, they can last a little while before they go down, but that looks like it's topping out. I want to see that happen. If that does happen, got 107.34. If it breaks 107.34 to around this 106.45, there might be a lot of people bailing out of the dollar, because remember, the narrative doesn't support that. The narrative supports the opposite. The narrative now supports the market moving up, and that's why you'll hear us talk about being contrary. When the narrative looks really good for something, usually in the markets you've got to be careful, because it moves in the opposite direction. And it's another reason why I like to use charts, because it tells you that narrative is wrong. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible for the dollar to keep going up. I'm just saying it'd be really interesting. What's happened is really interesting. What could happen is also really interesting, especially for us in crypto. If gold's moving up, dollar's moving down, equities are moving up, that should send Bitcoin even higher. Now, let's have a look at that. It's not necessarily a bearish setup that we're seeing. It's just a market that has been extremely volatile. Now, I don't particularly like the volatility, and short-term traders are not going to like the volatility. They're probably going to exit the market. Sorry, I'll just find where I am. Here we are. They're not going to like this volatility. But if you take it, what I like to do is take a step back and look at the chart and say, is this unusual? Or if it is unusual, how unusual is this price action? It could just dip a little bit here and go back up again, take the high out. That's very, very possible. I actually think it's probable. We've had the buy the rumor, sell the fact. The market's going to go down a little bit. There are people talking more about selling stuff. There's despondency, perhaps a little bit more of that, and then off we go again, would catch them out. I'm not sure really, but I don't think this is necessarily that bearish. We talked about this spike down here and how the market went down and rejected it. And that was an interesting signal for potentially the market to go higher. And it's obviously done that, but taking a new high out and rejecting that high isn't a great sign. It's what we want to see is a clean break. But to be fair, this is a very emotional time, and I like the market to break higher when nobody's talking about it, nobody's thinking about it. The heat's come off a bit, and then it quietly just takes the high out and off it goes without big headlines. So it might need a few more weeks for things to cool off a bit. If it hovers around these levels, that would be really good. But overall, there's no change in trend. It's still up, and I expect it to be higher rather than lower by the end of the year. Just to look at ETH, it's I've still got this big resistance up at well, that should be a little bit higher. It should be here at 4,107, although that is a big level there. But this is building up for a breakout. All the lows are higher. You got nice resistance up here to take out. When it eventually moves, it'll be a really good trade, I think. But we need to wait for it. And this current period, I guess we're going to see the market going from kind of extreme greed to back to maybe neutral or maybe fear. I'm not sure. Not sure what it will take, but it'll be interesting if sentiment comes off a little bit. and there is a bit of despondency, and then it moves up again, which is pretty typical of how the market operates.
Yeah. So a lot of the liquidity a lot of the markets going up has been on what happens with interest rates, right? Or the US dollar and interest rates. When you looked at the dollar index, what do you think about the strength of the dollar? Is it ready to come down? It seems like Trump's election has strengthened the people's feelings about the strength of the dollar a lot, and so the dollar's had to run up.
Yeah.
What do you think about the probabilities of like the dollar coming down and interest rates coming down, really fueling a risk-on investment time period?
Yeah, I think that's how it's going to play out. It's just a question whether it plays out now or a bit later. So the there's a good argument for investing in America right now, politically, and politically it seems to be, compared to the UK, where things are still very woke and free speech is not respected. Things have changed a lot, haven't they, in one fell swoop with Trump coming in.
Yeah.
And if you look at the outperformance of the US markets compared to the European markets, it's a stark contrast. So why wouldn't money flow into the US? And whether that continues, whether it attracts more capital, if he's, again, what we were saying about the situation with crypto, the crypto market is there for whomever to grab. You know, who wants to be the leader in it? Rishi Sunak, our prime minister, who's no longer from the conservative side, was very pro crypto, and now we've had a change of government. I'm not sure whether they are. They haven't said anything about it. They've talked about AI, but they haven't said anything about crypto. So, financial centers are extremely important. The UK and London, a lot of prosperity in the UK came from its position as a financial center in its time zone, but also because of historic trading that had been done through London. And, these relationships build over a long period of time, and whoever gets in there first and develops those systems will prosper. So, if he is pro crypto, it's another very positive, market money making situation for the US to dominate, as well as in tech. So it will be interesting to see whether that can. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that the dollar needs to move up. The dollar will move down depending on where economies are in their cycle, and it would be fair if the UK and Europe had a catch up. And to be fair, they are catching up. The UK stock market is now moving up quite aggressively. Some of that could be put down to the fact that sterling is weaker than the US dollar. Sterling's gone down a lot, and some of obviously the European euro has gone down, and therefore there is a rally in equities. But I think the same thing really applies. The US could consolidate for a bit and everything try and catch up, but there is a very strong argument for buying the US dollar. I just think technically it's looking too perfect to buy not technically it's looking too perfect. Economically, it's looking too perfect to buy the dollar, which is why I'm becoming a little bit concerned that the phrase, if it's obvious, it's obviously wrong, and it might be obviously wrong. So, the technicals are starting to turn over. I'm seeing some of the commodity currencies putting in potential bases. I looked at the positioning, and it seems like the market was very, very long the commodity currencies, and now have been unwinding them to move into US dollars. That's a really interesting movement. So it means like they're capitulating, possibly at the wrong time. So a few more things are pointing to the dollar actually going down, even though the argument is a very strong one to buy it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see how this plays out. So far, Trump focused on, I read through what the executive orders were from yesterday, and a lot of them were like economic and political. Nothing about crypto so far, at least not that I've seen. Now, he did a signing of a whole bunch, I think the first 100 or so that was public, and then he was going to sign like 200 more from the White House. And so we'll see what those other 200 are, and specifically what the executive orders related to crypto are. Is he going to do a Bitcoin reserve, strategic reserve? Is he going to pass some other things? Is he really going to, like, how fast is the SEC going to move towards a more pro-crypto stance? Obviously, with Gary Gensler gone, that in itself is a big thing. The SEC has been very, very anti-crypto the last 4 years under Gary Gensler. So we'll see how it plays out. Let's take a look at some of these altcoins. First number are suggestions from viewers who put in the comments some things last week that they would like us to look at this week. And so we'll take a look at HBAR, XDC, Scallop, and DEVVE. We're all suggestions.
Yeah.
Starting off with HBAR.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, before he actually signs an executive order, you're going to see Bitcoin go up a lot because that information is going to leak. It has to. And so anyone who knows that that's happening is going to be tearing into it. So I'm looking out for some unusual price action ahead of that potential. But it's a potential, which is more than you can say that it was, this time last year, which is, amazing. So it's amazing how everything seems to be moving in a more positive way for crypto at the time when it should be a positive time for crypto. So did one make it happen, or was it going to happen anyway? Who knows? We can't say whether it'd be the same under Biden because there's no counterfactual. But it's a fascination of how markets seem to do the things that they're supposed to do at the right time. So HBAR Hedera, this is obviously looking really bullish, but in a very similar way to some of the other markets. This triangle pattern, I think I was bullish on and looking for a break higher, which it has done, but it's obviously flopped back a bit here, and it's sitting back in the pattern, which is not a great sign because normally when these things happen, it moves up and moves cleanly. Like this, out of this pattern, it moves up and keeps going. It's a bit of a big ask for it to be going higher when everything else is coming off and when sentiment broadly is bearish. But overall, I still think for me, this is a bullish looking chart. It just might need to consolidate a bit more before it goes higher. But compared to some of the other ones, it's really, at least it's in an upward trend. Now, this trend rate is broadly unsustainable. So it does need some pause at some point. So I don't think this is too much of a problem for me. But it's a question of where does it find support? Now, if it takes the lower end of this out, the lower end of the range out, which is around 23 cents, then you're looking at a drop maybe at worst case, I suppose, to 13 cents. If it gets below that, I wouldn't really want to hold it. But overall, it's still sticking near the highs, which is what we want. And after a consolidation, and if everything else starts to move up as well, I think it'll take a run up at these highs. So for me, longer term, it's a buy. In the short term, it's probably going to range trade. But I don't think it'll take much to turn the market back up again.
Yeah, so that would be a buy. Let me see. There we go. All right. So some big moves on HBAR. Let's look at the history. I mean, it recently just did an 8x. If you remember, all the ISO coins, the ISO 220 coins really took off from as Trump won the presidency. So we saw an 8x since just November. That's absolutely crazy. And it's pushing close to previous highs from the last bull run. So big moves from Hedera. Now, one of the things that's interesting about Hedera is Hedera isn't a blockchain. It's a new idea called a hash graph. And a hash graph accomplishes similar things to a blockchain, but a different way of going about it. And it has faster transaction speeds than ETH and than a lot of blockchains, like especially Bitcoin, but everything's faster than Bitcoin. One thing that's interesting is it's also a permissioned blockchain built for enterprise grade solutions. And one of the things that's always been interesting to me about it is this is Hedera's governing council. And you see on there, you see Deutsche Telekom, you see Google, Boeing, IBM, Dell, LG, Ubisoft, like some of the biggest, Standard Bank, some of the biggest names on their governing council. And so really interesting to see how this plays out. A lot of enterprises haven't gone to blockchain yet. Yet is the word. And that's a big market. DEVVE, you've heard Tom Anderson on the interviews with me talking about what a big move this will be as all these corporations move to blockchain and integrate blockchain into what they're doing. And that major move hasn't happened yet. Hedera is the #1 leader in this. And so it is solidly in the blue chip category at a $13 billion market cap, but can go considerably higher than this. And by considerably higher, maybe a 5x from here, maybe a 10x from here. And but a lot of people that are investing in these types of blue chips, they're very happy with a 5x gain from here or a 10x gain because they're usually moving millions and millions of dollars in. So for them, that's a really good gain in a safer bet like Hedera. Now, I'm personally in more of the riskier bets that could go 100x, but might also fail. And so Hedera is not one that I'm in. I was very curious about it and was considering getting in at around a penny here. But when I was looking at their tokenomics, there was some breaks on its appreciation. And so I didn't go into it back here. It did end up going about 36 to later about 45x from what the price was here, which is really good. There were a lot of other things that went even higher during that time frame. But not a bad potential ROI. Now, a really juicy time to buy was back here, and we had a lot of discussions on the ISO coins in our private Rainmaker chat during this period when things were really, really cheap. Here, for me, isn't a buy point because I'm looking for a lot higher potential than, say, a 5x. If I were playing with tens of millions of dollars that I wanted to diversify across just blue chips, Hedera would be interesting. I'd probably make that buy. Presently, with what my goals are, it just doesn't fit it. So if for me, it would actually be a sell, and I would sell and be moving that into other things. But that's only because that's what fits what my goals are. Is the price at this point an actual sell? No, I'd just be taking gains and rolling that into other things because that's one of the things I do. For example, I recently sold one of the projects that I really, really like. I think it's got 5 or 10 or 20x from here potential, but it's already gone 20x from the bottom. So I sold that and moved that into something that I think has 50x or 100x potential. So when I say sell Hedera, there's nothing wrong with Hedera. It's a really strong player. It's just not got, I don't know that it has big enough gains left for it to be interesting. And if I had a bunch of Hedera, I'd be moving them into something with bigger potential. So let's go on to the next one, XDC.
Yeah, so XDC, it's beautiful pattern, beautiful breakout. I mean, it's been on a lovely upward trend, playing really nicely from a technical point of view. Made a spike on the 16th, and it's been coming off since then. So obviously in a corrective phase. Where is the support? Well, we can see that the support has to be around here, around 10 cents. And well, will it touch it? I'm not sure, but it looks like it wants to. And there's nothing wrong with it doing that because the trend, this is unsustainable. It's nice, but it's unsustainable. So we want this to move. At some point, things are going to just go parabolic, and I expect that, but it's just too early for that right now. So in this correction, I would expect it to come back to around 10 cents and to see how it reacts, because that will also be part of the upward trend or closer to what is the trend rate, the broader trend rate. But overall, the trend is up. So after this consolidation, I would have this still on the buy list. So anything around here is worth me stepping in and having a go. And barring any sort of sharp move through it, which would be, not a welcome sign, I think this trend will continue higher. So short term, it's probably going to consolidate like everything else. Longer term, it remains bullish.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with that sentiment at all on both Hedera and XDC. Is that, like, don't get me wrong, we're in a greater bull trend of the crypto markets, and some of these blue chips have moved first. And so that's why it creates a good opportunity to roll in some things that haven't moved yet. One of the reasons that I keep a diversified portfolio is so that when some of the things that I'm in move first, I can then roll, say, a 20x gain into something else. Because if you get a 20x gain on something that might have another 5 or 10x gain left, and you move it into something that has, say, a 50x gain left, then you just get farther ahead during this massive bull off top that happens once every 4 years. So it only happens once every 4 years, and we're in that 4th year. So it's about maximizing this run, in my opinion. Is XDC bullish here? I think so. Let me see. Right here is the chart. They're almost at their previous highs, just like we saw on Hedera's chart. This took off roughly around the same time. It's had a big, like, 5x gain already. It's solidly in the blue chip category at $1.73 billion market cap. Or I guess, it crosses the threshold of a blue chip. Less than half of its tokens are in supply. XDC is one I haven't followed super closely, but if you read about it, I like CoinMarketCap as a better way to get information on exactly what you're looking at. The XDC network is a blockchain developed to support trade finance and the tokenization of real-world assets. An EVM-compatible blockchain, XDC network utilizes state-of-the-art delegated proof-of-stake consensus engine to provide high-level security. So, XDC, I think the charts overall are bullish. My personal feelings are that I'm not holding a lot of blue chips, as I've said frequently. So blue chips ran up earlier. I think there's still plenty of run to go. In just my own personal trading strategy, this is a situation where I roll into some other gains, some other things for overall what I hope are higher gains. But I do think, like Paul said, the chart is still bullish, that I think it'll break through previous highs and have a significant run up, maybe 5 or 10x, maybe a little bit higher than that. Still left to go on there we go, on XDC. All right. So for me, it's only a sell from the standpoint of rolling into other things. The chart overall still bullish. Let's take a look at Scallop. Scallop isn't one I followed before, but one of the viewers want us to take a look at Scallop. So let's take a look and see what's going on with Scallop.
Okay, so the chart here is, first of all, there's not a lot of data. And secondly, when there was some data, something obviously happened between July 24 and October. So it's gone, something's happened there, which I don't know either, whatever. I guess we could look into it, but that's not looking very good. But even when we update to the current price action, it doesn't look like there's a lot of liquidity. The way the chart looks, it's very skittish in the way it's moving up and down. There's no smooth trend. So I would hazard a guess that this has very little liquidity.
Yeah, I'm looking on CoinMarketCap and I'm seeing a price of 20 cents.
Yeah.
That chart looks different. Let me share with you what I'm looking at.
Well, that is where it is now.
Okay.
That is, yeah.
This is what the chart looks like on CoinMarketCap.
Yeah, that's because you just got it on a shorter time frame. So you're just looking at probably this area here, whereas I'm looking at a daily chart going back further. So
there's two scallops I noticed. So we might be looking at different scallops. I think this is the one they want us to look at.
Yeah, that, to be fair, it's exactly the right price. So
okay.
So I'll have a look. So it's SCA or SCA?
SCA, I think, but I don't know. Maybe they can clarify if they're watching right now, because there are two scallops.
Yeah, because this. Well, let's see. Yeah, that I'm getting. Yeah, I see what you mean. This looks completely different. Yeah. Okay. So I guess we could look at both. The other chart I wouldn't feel comfortable giving a call on anyway. So let's put that to one side until liquidity improves and we know a little bit more about what's going on. With this chart, it is resting on the previous support. So this is an important place for it to bounce. Is it going to bounce? I don't know. So I wait for the bounce to be confirmed and then step in. I could step in with a small trade, but if it goes anywhere through the low, that's it, cut the position. But that's just a kind of trading mentality. As far as the long term goes, it really needs to actually start turning this short term trend around and moving back into this zone. It's got very nice resistance at 60 cents up here. So I wouldn't mind seeing it on the approach to that, because once it's broken that, it would have made a really nice long term base. But for the moment, I think it's a wait for me. But let's get some clarification as to which one it is, and then we could come back, because I would be interested to see this in a few weeks or maybe a month's time, see if it's held that level, and see if it's approaching some more interesting base forming patterns.
Yeah, this is often a price that I like to buy at when it's hitting this previous support level. So it hit 15 cents here. It's a little bit above that, which often it will put in a higher low before it is ready to run. So this next thing I'd be doing is I'd be clicking on website. I'd be checking out their Twitter to see what is going on. So Scallop says the next generation money market based on SUI, setting new standards with institutional grade quality, seamless composability, and robust security. You can launch the app here. I would then be jumping back to here so I can check out their Twitter, because I want to see what is going on. So it says 136K followers. Let's see what kind of traction their stuff gets. Their post from here getting 2.3K views. This getting 3.3K views, 6.5K views. And the reason I look at how much traction, how many views they're getting, is because you can buy Twitter followers, but usually this is where the indication of what's going on is how many views their different posts are getting. So that's why I scroll down and look at this. Usually Twitter will give us an indication of what they're all about as well. And my next step of research to look deeper at Scallop is I'd be looking for interviews with the team behind Scallop to see if that's interesting. All right. For me on the chart, if all I had to go off was the chart, it's actually a buy zone for me. I don't know whether I'm actually interested in Scallop. I don't know enough fundamentally about the company, but I like buying at this level, though sometimes it does break resistance and goes even lower. I try to buy at lows. A lot of the lower cap coins, and this is solidly in the lower cap category, it's $16 million market cap. Most of them haven't run yet, and that's okay with me. In fact, that's why at this stage, blue chips that I would, if I were holding, I'd be really tempted to take profits on them and roll them into some of the lower caps that haven't run yet. So for me, before I would truly buy this, I would want to know a lot more about the team, their vision, that kind of thing. But I like where the chart is. Cool. So in that case, it's a buy for me. Let's take a look at DEVVE. DEVVE is one I would say I'm pretty familiar with.
Yeah, so DEVVE's been on a bit of a tear recently, and now it's correcting, broke its trend line, coming back to this breakout point that we talked about at 98 cents. I mean, it was reaching a bit around here, and I think from memory, you were saying there was some form of announcement coming up, which again became a buy the rumor, sell the fact. Not sure whether that was a bearish thing or how you would interpret any of the fundamentals. I guess we can find out in a bit. But from a technical point of view, yeah, the trend is still up. It needed to consolidate because this sort of rate is too fast. It has to come at least into a range. So I think it will try and have a go at $1 or this 98.90 just to take stops out below $1 and then consolidate for a bit and move into a new trend rate to the upside. Now, whether it will come all the way down here, I'm not sure. It could be halfway between, but the trend is still positive. So nothing overall has changed. It's just the trend rate is not as positive as it was. And you have to understand that there are a lot of short-term traders, or I think we talked about it last week about how there'll be people who bought it here who'll be looking to sell it around here because, you know, they've watched it go all the way down and they just want to get out now that they've either made a bit of money or you know, recovered all their losses. So part of that would have been this sort of reaction. So we might see this sort of price action going on here into February, perhaps even a bit longer. But overall, the trend looks bullish. So I'd expect it to move up. There isn't any other price actions with which to analyze it. So we can only look at the trend and then look at if it breaks through what we know to be the previous significant highs. Those would be the bullish technical signals, barring it forming anything that would be deemed as a reversal pattern at this point. Right now, this is corrective. It's not a major reversal. But if it can just stay around these highs and consolidate for a bit, that would be it would be considered to be a continuation pattern. It likes to make these continuation patterns. So, you know, it's trading really nicely from a technical point of view. So we'll have to just see what happens next. But for the moment, consolidation, but longer term bullish.
Yeah, I do. There is a little bit more history on DEVVE, and the next one we're going to look at, I like to use Gecko Terminal because let me change the time frame on this. Let's see. And you'll see a little bit more history. What am I doing wrong?
Okay. Is that really it? That's gone back quite far.
Yeah, there is a lot more history on it than what you're seeing. So, well, you're seeing the history from here down, but it wasn't showing this earlier.
I see.
And so it gives us some context of what exactly happened prior to it. So it ran up to here. It reached these highs, which actually did peak out at about 220. And so we've seen it come up hitting against this strong resistance here and bouncing back down. Let's see. Yeah, unless I go to a bigger time frame like that, I don't really get. There we go. There's a little bit better history. So yeah, broken down and a lot of liquidity in the market. I think you're right about some people that bought up here that were just happy to get back out and you know, feel like they broke even. DEVVE, I'm having a hard time knowing what it's going to do in the short term, but medium term, I think DEVVE is still really, really, really bullish. My understanding is the big announcement that they were supposed to make soon, according to an interview I had with their spokesperson in December. I believe that was just pushed back, and it's an announcement about a partnership with one of the world's leading exchanges, stock exchanges. So we'll see what happens. But I think there's a lot of anticipation leading up to that announcement and a little bit of the air coming out of the balloon here. This is normal. This also looks like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And keep in mind, it could end up looking like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And that would be normal even during a bull market. So is DEVVE a buy? I think it's got much higher potential upside than this. Obviously, I'm highly biased. DEVVE is one of my largest positions. I like it from a fundamental standpoint a lot. So recognize that, well, I am biased towards this because I own huge amounts, because I do believe in this project. All right. Just adding some things. We are live, and so a bunch of suggestions coming in for projects for us to look at. Yeah, we'll take a look at them in the order that they've come in. Any ones that we aren't able to get to, if you put them in the comments section under the actual video itself, we can add them to next week's list as well. But yeah, if we look at Coin Market Cap, also does a pretty good job showing this previous run up. When it launched, it went up to about 40 cents, dropped down to 30 cents, and then did this big run up all the way to over $2. And then it did this big settling, and a lot of the pre-sale investors were receiving their tokens on an accelerated time frame over 10 months during this period. And it really drove the price down, but all that pre-sale token investing is now done, and we've since seen a big run up. Overall, their market cap sitting right around 100 million for a layer 1 blockchain that can do 8 million transactions per second. That is a crazy low market cap for something like that. If you want more information on it, I understand they just did an interview on Danny the Bull's channel. You can see the interview with Austin from December on my channel. I think there's lots to be bullish on about it. In fact, it's funny, a lot of DEVVE community have been showing up to take a look at it. Asani, good morning, DEVVE gang. Last week, we were doing a video and had so many of the DEVVE community joining in to see what was going on. All right. Next on the list is FIAS, which was also released by DEVVE. It's a blockchain game token for their blockchain game Litcraft.
Yeah, hold on a second.
I can send you a link to what I look at on Gecko Terminal.
Yeah, Gecko Terminal. Let's have a look.
Here, I just sent you a link, and it should pull up right too.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so
not that there's a ton of history on this, because they had a hack of the contract. So they had the token vesting contract to their pre-sale investors. So they had to release a new token. And so it's only got the history there. I don't know a chart that has the old history combined with the new.
Yeah, so there's not a lot that I'm looking at here, although I know we have looked at it before. I mean, it's obviously still corrective. It's come all the way back into this triangle, which was a breakout point, and really it should have stuck around these highs. So we've got a fairly consistent correction here. It needs to dig in here. It's very important that it does that. I would estimate that's about 50% of the move, and so I would like to see some green turning up from this point just to confirm that this is more short-term profit taking rather than something more substantial. Without a lot of data, I think again we've got to be careful, and I'd like to see it settle a bit more. So for me, it's going to be a wait until we see how this plays out. I think even looking at it in a week or two's time would be a good idea. But overall, it's still trending up. I mean, it's still higher than it was in December. So the trend is moving up, which is better than some of the coins are doing. But it's just the rate of this correction and the consistency of it is something that has to be noted. And I'd rather wait to see where it digs its heels in so that we know it's building from that support rather than trying to catch something that just keeps going lower. I mean, the ultimate sort of support level that it could come back to is down here around 3 cents. If it hits that, it definitely should hold it. And it would be a fairly critical situation, I think, from a technical point of view, if it takes those lows out. So it's got a ways to go before it would do something like that. So that's why I'm thinking if it stabilizes here, even if it goes sideways, it would be a positive thing because this is overall moving higher. So for me, it's a wait short term. I'd like to think it would be positive from a longer term perspective, but I'd like to see it in the context of the other data and putting it together.
Yeah, I wasn't excited to see it run up early because really it was trailing DEVVE's performance, and so as DEVVE was taking off, because Tom Anderson, the creator of the DEVVE blockchain, also created Litcraft, and so blockchain gaming isn't a narrative that's running right now. So I didn't really want to see FIAS taking off. I wanted FIAS to stay cheap. My hope was to roll in some gains from other things into FIAS. Now, I don't have any FIAS yet. I plan to have FIAS, but I have huge DEVVE exposure. So it's like kind of indirectly I have some FIAS exposure because my DEVVE exposure is so big. I also have some in-game items from their Litcraft game that gives me some exposure to their game doing well. So yeah, I'm glad to see it coming back. I would love to see it pull back even more than where it's at right now at this juncture, right? So if it breaks down, I would love to see it back at the 2 and 3 cent zone again, which is an amazing buy. Right now, I would consider this just a good buy, possibly a great buy. Down here would be an amazing buy zone again. Now, we don't really know what the market cap is. It says it's got a almost $20 million fully diluted market cap. How many tokens are in circulation? I doubt all their tokens are in circulation. So it's probably like a 5 million or less market cap. I would love to see that even cheaper, but we'll see how this plays out. I hated seeing it taking off when my bags aren't loaded on FIAS. So we'll see. I'm content to be patient and wait. Do I think that this is a good buy? It is a good buy, possibly a great buy, not an exceptional buy. An exceptional buy is much, much lower. But I buy based on fundamentals. And I think blockchain gaming is something people are forgetting about now because it hasn't been in the narrative, but it will come back in the narrative really, really strong. So right now, while nobody else is thinking about blockchain gaming, is exactly the time to be thinking about blockchain gaming. Why? Because we don't want to chase the current trend. We want to anticipate what will be a major trend in the future and buy when nobody else is thinking about it and sell when everyone else is thinking about it. That's how I play the market, and that's worked out really well for me. So in that sense, FIAS is a buy, though not as juicy as I would love to see it. It's just a good, possibly great buy. An amazing buy would be even cheaper. All right, let's take a look at another blockchain gaming project that I'm invested in, substantively invested in, called Myria.
Yeah, so Myria here is, we obviously looked at it around this area, looking for a trend line break in order to indicate that it was basing, and it was a good run up to its prior resistance, but it didn't get through it. So it's rejected that, come back to this. Now, is it going to go for what we call a triple, where it goes 1, 2, 3, and then breaks it? Well, it's at the low side, so this is some good support down here. For me, that's always a double-edged thing. Good support, you can buy against it, but if it breaks, it can trigger some big moves to the downside, which is why short-term traders will buy against the level, and if it doesn't react quickly, they will bail out, and you'll see, the market go down quite fast. On balance, I'd say it's, for me, I would like to take a punt there because it's had 3 goes at it, and there's also support from down here. And we are in a broader macro bull market. So taking that into account, I would expect at some phase that this would start to trend higher. Now, I might get the timing wrong here. Maybe it goes down and then comes back up again. I'd have to rebuy it. Of course, in reality, there's other markets to choose from. But if we're looking at just this, I think it's an interesting place. So I would be looking to nibble at this point and put a stop below this 001510. If it takes that out, straight out of the market. If it ends up being a significant low, then we've got quite a trend potentially ahead of us. So a speculative, for me, buy at this point.
Awesome. Now, Myria is one I own a lot of, and I could say fundamentally I would have liked to see more from the Myria team as far as game development. I would love to see that. They did hire some people when they launched Myria. They hired some people with good blockchain gaming background. I haven't seen a lot of it come to fruition yet, and so I just wish there was more substance here. However, I'm price dependent, meaning my interest on things are dependent on where the price is at, and I do think this is an attractive, really juicy price. Remember, this one, everyone's attention went on to blockchain gaming during a bear market. So like this was just existing funds within the crypto changing hands into blockchain gaming, and it went from the bottom of about 0.11 cents was the bottom. It went all the way up to 17 cents, even though it doesn't show that here. So almost like a 16x, like a 15 or 16x from the bottom. So tremendous gains during still a bear market. Now it's come not quite as cheap as it got here, but really close. And it's right near that bottom. So it's at a really juicy, attractive price again. Would I like to see more things from Myria? I would like to see some really, really good games coming out from Myria. But don't get me wrong. They can still do really, really well during a blockchain gaming narrative, even without that. A lot of people back here, when I said Myria was an incredible price, they said, well, Myria will never do well until a really good game comes out and becomes one of the top played games in the world. And until that happens, there's too much token investing pressure from the nodes getting tokens every month that it will never do well. Were they right? No, they weren't right. No new game launched that was amazing from Myria. And yet they went absolutely crazy just because the blockchain gaming narrative ran. So sometimes people overthink it. If you're in a major company within a narrative that runs, your token goes crazy based on the speculative value, even if the right things haven't come together. And so Myria, I did meet with Jonathan Teo, who's the CEO of Myria. I really, really liked him. Some of the other team members from Myria I like, and some, like there's one from Ubisoft, and one of our Rainmaker family worked at Ubisoft, said they didn't like that person at all, which was really interesting feedback. They said he was a terrible manager and that a lot of people at Ubisoft didn't like him. So that was some interesting news. And maybe that's why tons of things aren't rolling out with good games. Maybe even though the CEO was good, maybe he didn't hire the best people to run it. I don't know. Do I think that this is a good price? Yes. I think Myria is a big enough name. It's going to do really, really well in the bull run that this market cap could go into the billions, which is 20x, could go 50x, could go 100x from here. And those are the type of numbers I like to see. So is it a buy? Yes. Now, fundamentally, I would like to see it be stronger. It is a major name in the blockchain gaming space, and it has a lot of attention from a lot of the major influencers that when blockchain gaming runs, they'll probably be talking about Myria. I like this a lot more than Gala. I think it's got much, much more upside potential than where Gala's at. So Myria is a buy for me, though I would love to see better stuff coming forward with the game development. All right, so on to some suggestions. Web Zombie says, what's up? Hope everyone having a good day. Good to see you, brother. Bill Gardner, what's up? The Arcturus said, just got some DEVVE. Nice. I think long-term that's going to play out really, really well for you. Let's jump into some of the suggestions. Our first one being from Degenerics, asking us to look at ANKR. I think we looked at ANKR last week or 2 weeks ago.
I think it might have been a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3, but it hasn't really changed in terms of its technical position in that time. It was, I think, well, the analysis is that it is above its major low from March 20, which is good. It's also off its major high from November 21, and this is very significant, those 2 resistance points. It's been playing along this line, so I put this line in just now, but we have talked about how this is support, resistance, 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 and it's playing in the lower part of that, and it needs to break through. Obviously, it's tried to, and it would have been an exciting short-term trade to take it through here, but it obviously unfolded into a correction and leaning back on its prior support here. It's recently done the same. It's had a go at a breakout, come back again. At some point, it will take it out, I think, just because structurally the market is waiting to kind of all trend to the upside. Why wouldn't this one go? It's possible that it doesn't. Nothing's guaranteed or set in stone, but it is at least in a structurally positive position, given that it's above its major low down here. It's not, and what I mean by that, it's not playing down here, testing lows, which becomes a bit more risky. It has proven that the trend is trying to move from a bigger picture to the upside. It's just that it's been stuck in this range since May 22nd, and it's still there now. So my question is it about to move right here, right now? And the answer is I don't know, but it doesn't look like it. So I don't think I'm going to miss something if I don't buy it yet. So for me, it's a wait, but definitely one that we should keep coming back to, because at some point it might be heading towards this resistance, and that's where it gets exciting. And we've seen it in the past where things have done nothing and then all of a sudden start to accelerate higher. And there are signs when that happens, and it's good not to miss them. So we're looking for a change in market dynamics, and we're not really getting a change at this point.
Love Paul's analysis on that. Like, is ANKR one I own? It's one that I could own. It's in the market cap range of, I do have some projects that are in the several, like $100 to a couple $100 million market cap. So it is in with the zone of what I could be interested in. I don't specifically hold ANKR. And one of the challenges with the crypto space, there are just so many different projects. I don't try to hold everything. But substantive project, easy to get because it's right on Coinbase itself. And I like that about it. In fact, on Coinbase, I might have $10 or $20 worth of ANKR. So maybe I do own it, just not a real position, right? I don't consider $20 a real position. I think I earned that by like watching 5 videos on it like 3 years ago. I do like this kind of price action. This is exactly what I like. Leading into a bull market, I like to buy along this lower trend line, and it's close to it. It's not right at the bottom. It was recently at 2.3 cents. It's a little bit higher than that, but not far off at 3.2 cents. So this is an attractive price pattern that I like it. And like Paul said, it's not showing that it's ready to run away. But I like to buy during that point that is not ready to run away. I like to buy and just wait and let it play out. I like to buy when nobody's thinking about it and sell it when everybody's talking about it. So great suggestion. This is a very interesting buy point. I would rate it a buy. Good suggestion. All right. How are we feeling about Quant? Asked Justin B. Let's take a look at it.
Yeah, it's definitely still range bound, but it's knocking on this 160 and just above resistance. Shame it didn't extend from here, because it taken out 1, 2, 3 important resistance points. It just couldn't go for the next one, which was all the way up here. So it has corrected, but so is everything else. This was the base down here at $81, and that's also an important support that's close to this support here. So it's resistance, support, around 81, I think for me is an area that if it gets below there, I would be cutting out. But in the short term, I think this run is interesting. It's come off and gone into a consolidation. I'd like to see it above this area of this range of over 123, because then it will sort of cut upwards potentially back towards 160. And this is where we want to see it break out and head towards these highs. That's the trigger point. And if it's going to do that, it should do it, towards some fairly decent levels. This is what we're looking for. We're looking for a build up into a bigger and more sustainable trend. From a macro point of view, broadly the market is bullish, but broadly the market's coming off in the short term. So if this can swim against the tide and start playing around the 130 to 135 area, that will tell us that it's relatively strong, and we should take a potential break up here a lot more seriously. So right here, right now, I think it's, day to day, it's a wait, but I'd be watching this day to day. This is one where, whereas the other chart was more like you could look at it, once every few days or once a week. This one, I think you probably need to watch it every day, because it wouldn't take much to get it through this 123 resistance, and then the chart looks completely different. It suddenly looks far more bullish. So I think it's a wait, but if I had to sort of lean towards the longer term, I would say it's a buy. And as I say, the stop loss, I always have to have a parachute out where I'm wrong, because I don't use fundamentals, so I don't read anything about the markets. It's just what the charts are looking like and whether there's buying power coming in. Below 81, I think the selling power is taking over, and that would be where I'd exit the market.
Yeah. Like you were saying, it is showing broader signs that it maybe is ready to turn around. One of the things I like that this pattern shows up in crypto. This is the kind of pattern I like. So clearly bull market here. So it really ran later in the bull market of 2021. Notice that in the early part of the run up, it didn't do very much. But when we had the metaverse play is when quant really took off. So it not only was metaverse, but it was like AI, and it was like quantum computing and other things going crazy. That's when it ran. And then it savagely pulled back into 2022 at this bottom of about 49 bucks. Notice it never quite came back that cheap. So there's this nice price floor that it's bounced along during. And this is what I want to see. I want to buy somewhere near the bottom. It's okay if I'm not right at the bottom. And then hold into a bigger run up. Now, am I buying quant? No, it's higher market cap than what I'm looking for. I like quant. I can't own everything. If I could own everything that was interesting, I would have some quant. But the price is decent. I would like it to be a little bit cheaper. In fact, somewhat disappointing that it's run up from the bottoms, almost going 3x here and then pulling back for this nice pullback. Maybe this is ready to run sooner than what we just looked at. So is it a good price? It's a decent price. Am I buying it? Too high of a market cap, but I like quant. It's interesting. Based on the price action, it gets a buy. It would just be a smaller buy because I like juicier prices, and it's not quite as juicy as it was. It's at a $1.32 billion market cap. So it goes 10x from here, would take it to a $13 billion market cap. And my guess is it could go 10, 20, 30, 40x from here. From when it was half as cheap, realize that those numbers were double. So whatever it does go to, somebody who bought when it was half the price of what it is now gets double the gains. So interesting pick. Thanks for the suggestion. Narujan, maybe I'm saying that right. Narujan R is saying Akomi is buy. Let's take a look at Omi's price.
Yeah. So Akomi, last week we looked at the potential for it to break this line here. So I was saying the buy point for me came here. There was some evidence, but that was the buy point. And then it tried to extend, failed. We let it come back for a retest, rebounded, still give it a bit of time. Then it came back again, had a little bounce. But I said, if it gets through this line, then I've got to have a parachute out. So for me, I'm out. I'm into neutral. Now, I accept that there could be some good support coming up. This is support from the low. But it's not for me technically to step in at this point. I need to see it confirmed and then it move back up again, and then I'll be interested. If this is forming a big base, a big basing pattern, then it takes time. So, and it can encompass a swing up, a swing back down to lows, and then another big swing up. And you may think that this sounds like a very late trade to put on, but I'd be most interested in it when it breaks, if it breaks this line, and even if it breaks this resistance up here, because that's a really important marker for its high watermark, if you see what I mean. So if it breaks that, I think the technicals will look so much better. But obviously it's got a lot of work to do before then. So that's why I'm going to say for now it's a wait until I see something in the short-term chart to suggest that it's based similarly to this inverse head and shoulders that set this move off. Something like that happens, it could turn into a buy again. But for the moment, I'm going to stand aside and wait to see what happens before stepping in. So yeah.
For me, this is, I bet the audience can pretty much guess. For me, it's a buy. Now, this is on a logarithmic scale, and it goes way back to when the token started trading, or at least the trading was being tracked way back here. And so notice this trend was generally down if we look at it through here. And this would have been a very scary time to buy. In fact, the business was much more risk of failing back here. But some point in here, their app did go live, their DEVVE app, and they're probably around here because then the token absolutely pumped and then it came way back again. And it was trading at these values until the greater narrative within the bull run hit. And that's what caused this massive increase, 3,000x increase, which the pendulum swung too far to the upside. Now, in my opinion, it's swinging too far to the downside for the strength of the company and the partnerships they have, and the amount of money that they make ongoing for a crypto project is in a really good position. Yet its market cap is substantively below a ton of other market caps because it is solidly out of the narrative. And many people see that as a bad thing. Oh, why would I buy it? Nobody's thinking about it. Well, that's when I buy things. So $81 million market cap, I think it's extremely undervalued. In fact, I just increased my position in Akomi at a price higher than this. So it's even gone cheaper than what I bought out. And I'm not disappointed. I have a magic crystal ball. I didn't know it was going to come down this cheap, or I would have been able to get a lot more Akomi for the same price. But I like this one fundamentally. And the price got cheaper. And that's a good thing for those that like to buy low in order to sell high. Now, it takes some patience. I don't know when the narrative hits, but I just like Bitcoin is a digital replacement to gold. In some ways, it has some better qualities than gold does. Not in every way. It's not better than gold in every way, but it's a really good store of value. And it's got ease of movement, so you can move it from one country to another fairly easily compared to gold. It's easier to store than gold. It's easier to transport than gold. There's so many reasons why digital is better than the physical version of a store of value. Well, digital collectibles in many ways are superior to physical collectibles, but that movement hasn't really caught traction since back in 2021, at least with digital collectible tokens going crazy. But I do think it'll hit again with this sometime this year. And so that's what I'm banking on. So I have a huge position in the OMI token, and I just added more to it. And I'm just going to wait to see how this plays out. But I love it at this price. It's an amazing undervalued price, and many people, they just won't buy at this. They need to see it going the other way, and that's okay. I don't mind buying at really, really cheap prices and seeing if I'm right. And then, yeah, watching to see how it plays out. Really, a lot of what I'm doing in the crypto space is just early stage business investing, and it's a risky space. And because it's a risky space, the upsides can be absolutely phenomenal. So I like the risk versus return on this a lot. Great suggestion. Obviously a huge fan of Omi myself, so it gets by for me. Let's see, what do we got next? ICP and then MCADE.
So ICP, I'm pretty sure we looked at that fairly recently. Not a lot has changed in the sense that it's still in this consolidation, sort of trading around the $10 area. So swung up, swung down, resistance supports matched, swung up again, swung down. But it is compressing. So the range is getting tighter, which is usually a sign that it's going to be getting ready to move out of that compression. And if you take a step back, the trend has been down, but it has been up from here, which is why the market's a little bit confused about where it wants to go next. Given the macro situation, I'd say the breakout chance is higher to the upside than the downside, but there's no guarantee. It could be 70-30, 80-20, something like that to the upside and still fall on the other percentage. But I still like this trend, and I like the way it's compressing. So for the moment, it's a wait, but if it takes this higher resistance line out, then I think it moves to a buy. And around $20 to $23, it's a very interesting point. So I'd be surprised if everything's running and this isn't. So longer term, I feel it's a buy as well. It's just short term, it's still stuck in this range, compressing. But again, it's another one that we've got to keep a close eye on, because when it moves, it could move fast.
Yeah, I like Justin B's comments here. What's up, rainmakers? Just waiting for the monsoon, and it will feel like a monsoon. I often talk about when the rains come in. Realize that if I'm right, that this 4-year pattern continues to play out, that this year will feel like a monsoon, not just rains. It'll be crazy, and everything pumps. Almost everything. You will even see complete crap fly like crazy in this market. And so it's a great time to be deployed in the crypto space, because even the ones that, like, as long as the company survives, and I've even seen dead projects pump, like completely dead, founder in jail, and yet the price went up during the bull market. It was crazy. Nobody was substantively even working on it. So crap literally was flying in that type of environment. Although it's a lot better when the founder isn't in jail of a project. The company does much better if it survives. And so everything pumps during that time. Now, internet computer protocol, remember, narratives change and they swing, and ICP was huge. I remember everyone talking about it when it launched here, and how much ICP do you have, blah, 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 and all the major crypto channels. And this is why most of the people who follow the major crypto channels absolutely get devastatingly wrecked on their positions, because they buy what everyone is talking about. And you can see how well that goes for them. When ICP launched, it was going for $400, and it came all the way down here to $3. Now, $3 was the pendulum swing way too far to the downside. And a lot of it is because of token vesting pressure. When it launched, I saw that 2% of their tokens were in circulation. And now you see that a huge percentage of their tokens are in circulation with an infinity max supply. But you saw a lot of their tokens get vested, and not only did they get punished by the bear market, they got punished by the token vesting tremendously. But at $3, it was so juicy. In fact, they were barely in the blue chip category. For a project as big as Internet Computer Protocol, that was a big deal. And so I rated it as a definite buy here, even with my thoughts on overall I don't like blue chips. Now at $10, it's an okay buy for a blue chip. I think in the bull market it does 5x, 10x, 20x, 30x from here. There's a reason why I don't hold blue chips, especially at this kind of price, because I want something that can do like 50x, 100x, 200x gains during that same monsoon season. So I like Internet Computer Protocol. If I were buying blue chips, I would probably see it as an okay buy at this point. Am I actually buying it? No. I'm in riskier stuff. Now, the riskier stuff usually doesn't run till later in the bull market, but sometimes it runs up a little bit early. You've seen DEVVE go from 12 cents at the bottom all the way to recently $1.80, and a lot of the riskier stuff hasn't really run yet. And so the reason I've taken most of my positions in the riskier stuff rather than playing the game of buying Bitcoin and blue chips and then rolling it into that is because you never know which ones are going to run early anyway. And DEVVE doing such big gains from the bottom to here, you know, I learned my lesson last time is I tried to roll from blue chips into the other stuff, that some of the other stuff I was interested in ran up early and massively. And so I didn't end up ahead in that situation. So this time I took a strategic position that I wouldn't play any of the blue chips for the most part. I would just buy the ones I wanted, and I would patiently wait to see how they play out. Now, a few of my riskier plays have played out earlier than expected, and that's been great because I've rolled some of that money. But that's why I haven't been playing blue chips this cycle at all. I'd be tempted to take a little bit of profit, throw it into other things because there's not as much gains here. If I were just trying to hold blue chips, I was moving massive money into things, or I just wanted a less risky portfolio. From that standpoint, it's a good buy. Would I actually be buying it? No, I'm not. But I like ICP. And I think they're a solidly backed project. So that's my feelings on ICP. MCADE, we haven't looked at MCADE in a long time. Let's take a look at MCADE.
So MCADE is interesting looking chart here. It's tried to break out from certainly the all-time high on this chart. Don't know if there's another one that's got more data, but it's had a go. So here we have the high watermark. This is what we need to break, and it's consolidating near that, which again is an interesting technical development. Of course, it could break down 2.5 cents. If it closes below that, it'll probably correct towards this 2 cents support. But there are some support areas on the way down if it does want to test it. But for the moment, it's not there. It's closer. It's in its support zone, and it's in consolidation zone, which is usually a precursor to another attempt to break higher. So I like this. If I didn't say I liked it before, I do like it now. And I think the only thing is volume's coming off a little bit, but volume coming off in a consolidation isn't a problem for me. What I want to look out for is if the market goes up, breaks a new high, and the volume goes down, that could be a concern. But overall, whilst it's above 2.5 cents, I think this is a buy, and it'd be interesting to see if it's got enough. The only thing I'm thinking is the market ready for its next run, and it's not just this; it's just everything else, or is it going to be a bit of a consolidation in the short term after Trump and everything else, and then it runs a bit later? It'd be really nice if this goes now. It'd be great. It's done a bit of a consolidation already. So there are arguments for this going now, and some of the other ones that are in a similar position. So yeah, I think it's definitely one that we've got to look at within a few weeks to see if it's pressing this resistance point. So yeah, for me, it's a buy. But as I say, this is the consolidation parameter, and 2.5 cents is quite a key support point, and it's fairly close to that. So I'd like to see it rally in the next day or two to at least be in this central point around 3 cents, and then we can start talking about it breaking this high.
You rated that as a buy?
Yeah, I'm going to put it as a buy.
Okay.
Because it's above the 2.5 cents. Yeah.
This is a really interesting pattern,
Me.
and I like this pattern a lot. So MCADE is interesting. I don't play the simple arcade type of video game. So I didn't invest in Nakamoto Games. I haven't invested in MCADE. I did speak to the team just, like a month and a half ago. They reached out to me after somebody had suggested we covered on this video, and they said, "Hey, love to do an interview with you." And I said, "Sure, let's do it." And then haven't heard back from them. So we haven't worked out a time to meet. Although, some of my former OMI homies have moved on from OMI and just looked at other things. And they've been covering Medicaid a lot. So there's a lot of interviews out if you're interested in Medicaid. I can't say I know that type of video game well. I've never been interested in the very simplistic video games, like just the little quick ones. There are a ton of people across the world that play those. It's just not anything I've ever played. So I haven't invested heavily in that type of play. I can tell you this chart is really interesting. We're going to see this pattern play out a lot more. If you look at what it is, this is what a W pattern looks like. And notice where it came up to. It came up right to the same point here. And so what that looks like a female's chest or something. Notice that it comes back down right to this point. And this is often where it then takes off like that. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if it plays out this way, but this is usually when it does this, how it does play out. And what's interesting is the blockchain gaming narrative isn't hitting right now. So Medicaid is, though. And so I'm curious as to what's driving this. Now, some big moves that really kind of persuaded me, even though I don't like the simple arcade games very much, was some of the team members that Medicaid brought on have significant blockchain gaming backgrounds or gaming backgrounds. And one of the problems I see with crypto and blockchain gaming is they don't have enough substance on their gaming development side. See, most games that launch don't make it, most video games. Now, in the space in blockchain gaming, I feel like you have an advantage if you launch something that is really playable compared to blockchain gaming. You can do well, even though the game wouldn't have gotten big traction in the very competitive gaming space. A great example of that is 2021. People weren't playing Axie Infinity because it was the greatest game out there. People were playing it because there was economics behind it, because what they could earn in the game had real world value. So blockchain gaming gives you an advantage that way, but the better your game development is, well, the better you're actually going to do. It didn't help Axie that their game wasn't near as good as what the other top games were. If it had been even better, they would have gotten even more traction. So I like the hires that they brought on their team. That gave the team some real substance and probably says a lot about their leadership. So there's that was good. This chart is really interesting to me. Their market cap is higher than I wish they were. Like GFAL, Game for a Living, which also has a very substantive team, and they're developing games more along the lines of what I like. Their market cap is cheaper than this. But gosh, I have to rate this based on the chart as a buy. This is one of my favorite patterns in the crypto space as it's playing out. This W pattern, notice a few key points of that I guess technically it did wick down, but who knows, that could have been some big sell orders. It wicked down farther than it did here, but really the bottom where it showed strong supports, this went down to here. It really put in, for the most part, a higher low on a W, and then it starts to take off. But it will often, once it breaks up to previous highs, go right up there. It will come back down to test this midline from the W and then break to the upside. Really curious to see how this one plays out from here, but that pattern is one of my favorite in crypto. We'll see a lot more of these. It's just a little bit earlier in the higher risk altcoins to be seeing this pattern play out more, but we'll see a lot more of these patterns. This one, the first I've seen. Cool. Great suggestion. 3D says DEVVE will change lives. I think you're probably right on that. Bill Gardner, I just picked up 3.8 million more OMI, and isn't it a steal? You could have bought that for about $1,000, which is awesome. Maybe OMI has its own span of bear bull market cycles, like 8 instead of 4. There's a lot of people that are really worried that OMI is going to miss the bull market this time. I don't think it does. Sure, it could. If I were to put my guess on what the chances are, I would say it's like a 5% chance that digital collectibles miss the bull market. It just cycles through it, and it feels like it's never going to run, and just suddenly it does. And that's just how I've seen it play out. A lot of people have sold. I've watched, since I've been in crypto since 2017, a lot of people sell out of the narratives because some other things are running first, thinking that that narrative is never going to run because it's just going down. What's happening is people are selling what they consider the boring narrative where nothing is happening to FOMO into the one that's already run up some. And they end up dropping the price even further on that quote unquote boring narrative. And then that quote unquote boring narrative finally takes off and massively outperforms the gains that they were trying to make in the other one. And I've seen that play out over and over again. All right. So if you have time, take a look at Axelar. All right, Justin, just because it's you, and then we'll take a look at Bump, and that's all our suggestions to take a look at from today.
Yeah. So Axelar, I seem to remember us talking about maybe this inverse head and shoulders and a breakout here, which was a really good move. It was because it was moving up from what was a support point through a resistance point, and it looks like it was starting to trend. We were getting higher lows, and off we go. But obviously, it stopped here. I've just put this line in. I hadn't put that line in before, just to mark it, and it's dropped below the breakout point and come back into support. So it's back into a neutral area, and I think for me to step back in again, it's two ways to do it: either to buy against support, which one could argue we're close to again, so we could kind of reload down here, or waiting for some strength to come along, and that would be this same point around 85, 84.5, 85 cents, which would then potentially have enough momentum to break this trend line and also get through this $1.13 area to take us into some more interesting higher prices around here. So at this stage, there's a few steps in the game to play, and the first one is it's got to start moving up from here. So with a speculative hat on, I'd say it's a buy here, but I'm going to say it's a wait just for now, just because I want to see it turn around and show a bit more strength, because the kind of confirmation point is at 85 cents. So maybe it's a bargain here, but the way I look at things, it's got to be in that trend before, technically it will look interesting. Just one small thing was that little spike there ending this move down. Potentially try to do that there, and it didn't end the move, but it's with everything else again looking bullish further out, and with Bitcoin doing very well, are people going to start rolling into these altcoins? They should be. It should be the next thing. So it's important to keep an eye on practically everything. So there are some good levels with which to trip the wires. But for the moment, I think I'm going to say it's a wait. But please do ask about it again in at least a few weeks, so we can see whether it's trading towards some of these important breakout points.
Yeah, interesting suggestion on Axelar. So I don't know the fundamentals very much on Axelar. I was looking up some things on it, and one of the first place I go is CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, and then I click on their socials. So their website, I like to look at their Twitter.
You're on me at the moment?
Oh, yes. I like to look at CoinMarketCap, and then I look at their Twitter. So Axelar Network. So it shows 208K followers, which is good. This one has 32 million views on their pinned comment. Now, it's been pinned since October 3rd, 2024. On their other comments, they're getting 5K views, 13K views, 8.8K views. So they're getting some decent views on their different things. Axelar knows blockchain better than anybody. Yeah, that's funny, like a Pepe Donald Trump meme there. Interesting. So their price action is good. This is where I like to buy projects that I'm interested in. I don't know enough about Axelar to know if I'm interested. I do like that you can get them on Coinbase, and the market cap is under $1 billion, which is nice. I like that they're somewhat near their recent lows. So they hit 47 cents here back in September of 2024. They've come back down to that. So they hit about $1.15, and they had a price halving from there almost. So it's at 63 cents. I like this kind of interest point on ones that I'm interested in. So for Axelar, I didn't know if I'd be interested in. I'd be watching some AMAs and other things, but a great buy point if I was interested on Axelar. So based on that, I would say it's a buy. All right. Our last one of the day is Bump, and Bump's token price has been interesting to say the least. Let's take a look at it.
Yeah. So I've just seen that this isn't an up-to-date chart. So it's let's have a look. Let's see if we can get it on here. Let's see what that is. Okay. Is that correct? So 1.3. So I prefer the look of this one. Yeah, so it's around here. So when we looked at this last, it had made this very sharp move down. You could say well, obviously that was a negative, but the positive is it recovered and it's rebounded, which is a good sign. So if it had gone down and stayed down, that would be a really bad sign. But it's turned around really aggressively. But this trend line that I drew in, or resistance line, hasn't been breached yet. And if it is forming some form of basing pattern, it needs to get through there as a first step. Excuse me. And then the real trigger is going to stay all the way up here at 2.5 cents. That is where a base is confirmed, and where technically we'll probably get this trend line coming in close to that time as well when it does that. And then for me, we get the proper buy signal. Around here, it's very risky, and doesn't mean that it won't go up, but it's just I can't justify it as much as when it's made a proper base, and that comes in at 2.5 cents. So I'd like to see it get through, excuse me again, I'd like to see it get through this resistance line, and it would tell me that it's put this volatility behind it. Usually there's a bit of a reverberation after that. So, you know, and when it did it here, it still went down a bit more. So I just want to see how it trades in the next couple of weeks, see if it can get through here. If it's trading around 1.8 cents, that would be a very good sign, because we could start building an upward trend. At the moment, we can't build an upward trend really, because it's not giving us any higher lows. So that's why I've got to be a bit cautious. But I could also step back and say this whole area here, if that's a base and it's got such a lovely trigger at 2.5 cents, you'd expect this sort of volatility, because that's what bases are like. They're very whipsawed, they shake people out, and then once all of that's done, the market then starts to trend up. We just haven't had that secondary point happen as yet, and I need to be a bit more patient to wait for that. So for me, it's a wait, but please do keep putting on the list, and we'll keep looking at it.
Yes. So famous investment saying, one of the most famous of all time, is I buy when there's blood in the streets, even if it's my own blood. Now, few people actually do that because it feels scary as hell. And is it scary as hell to buy Bumper right now? It's scary as hell. Their price has never been lower that I've seen it. So it broke through its previous lows where it went down to 1.6 cents here, and it's been trading below a penny. Now, there aren't a lot of things you can buy it on. You can buy it on MEXC, and you can buy it on Uniswap. And I think you can also get it on Arbitrum, but not a lot of places to buy it, and the liquidity isn't that high. So if you have access to MEXC, it's one of the easiest places to buy it. Uniswap, you can only buy little bits at a time, so you want to wait till late at night when the transaction costs are less on Uniswap. And because, you know, recently ETH transaction costs have been higher than normal. So here's the risks. I mean, if you go into like their social media channels, like the FUD is like huge. Why isn't the team doing more? Oh my gosh, it's doing terrible. Here's the two questions to ask. Do they have enough money to continue operation for at least, like, say, a year or more? If so, that's a really good sign. Secondly is like, you know, what are they doing to get some attention right now? Now, if they just survive until the bull market, and when the DeFi narrative hits, like, they'll do tremendous at that point. Like, are they doing like incredible? Like, sure, I wish things were going better from a standpoint of I already hold tons of Bumper. I just sold something else that was ahead to buy Omi at what I thought was a remarkable price. I didn't know Bumper was going to be going this cheap, or I probably would have had some of that set aside to buy more Bumper at this price. Like, I really like Bumper. It's scary to feel like you're running into a burning building and buying, but that's when the highest returns are made if it does survive. And say if, like, I remember holding Axie Infinity, and a lot of people look back and they say they would love to have been buying Axie Infinity back in 2020, but would you really have? The game was struggling to get any kind of people playing it, any kind of player base. As boring as it was in 2021, it was worse in 2020. And matchmaking had problems. There were just lots of problems, bugs in the game, failures. And so it felt like you were buying what felt like a burning building, and FUD was high. And it felt like this. Now, there was one or two points where I seriously thought Axie Infinity might go under, that they wouldn't survive. They ended up surviving and doing thousands of X's in returns. So it ended up going out just fine, but you don't know, like, that, you know, Bumper's at that point. It's like, if they still have plenty of runway, and when I talked to them like 6 or 9 months ago, they said they had 2 years of runway, so that even if they didn't make revenues, they could still continue operations. If that was true and is still true, that they have, say, a year to a year and a half left of runway, well, then that's a really good sign. If that was an over-exaggeration, they run out of runway, well, you could see them close the door. So it's a risky standpoint, just like when a building's on fire. But, you know, if you go into their social media stuff, like, it's, you know, a FUD fest, and they've been banning a bunch of people that are posting what they deem as negative things. I don't like to see that. But they're at this point that often happens to smaller market cap projects at this point in the bull market. The larger cap ones have been taking off. The mid cap ones have been doing okay. You know, Bitcoin's been doing tremendously, and people holding the smaller cap ones that haven't run, that haven't had their narrative hit, people are super mad and frustrated because they feel like they've been watching everyone else get rich but them. And so the FUD hits these all-time highs. I imagine, and I wasn't following the Omi chat closely because I wasn't hardly on Twitter back in 2020, but I imagine the Omi community and Telegram was very much like that back in 2020 after the app launched, that it wasn't getting major traction, and a bunch of people were mad, and some people were stocking up on it. So we'll see what happens with Bumper. If they survive, massive potential for a massive upside, that if they survive and catch traction, they could go to a $2 billion market cap, maybe a $20 billion market cap. If they just survive into the bull market, they could easily hit 100 or 200 or $300 million market cap, which are significant gains from here. Will it happen? Well, we'll see. We'll see. Don't know. At this price, it's a buy. It's a risky buy in that I haven't seen the numbers to know that they have over a year's worth of reserves. If they were accurate on that, then that puts me at rest. That it's like, yeah, amazing buy. Cool. Paul, you're the best. Thank you for joining.
Thanks very much. Thanks for the picks, and look forward to next week. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks so much, Paul.
Thank you.
I love that Definity lends Paul out to us, and it's amazing to have him here, because one of my goals with this channel is to create the most sophisticated, best investors in the audience. That is my goal, and I look at everything through that lens, especially when I take strategic partners. I say no all the time. I get hit up with meme coins, all kinds of things offering me all kinds of money for some kind of like sponsorship or strategic relationship. I just say no, because the greater scheme of what I want for this channel is I want you as an investor to have really good insights into what crypto investing is all about, different ways of understanding money flows, not just in crypto, but in other things. So you can become a solid, savage, unshakable crypto investor, so that you can make your financial dreams come true as you learn how to analyze things for yourself and become solid yourself. I don't ever want you to just buy what I'm buying. That isn't the goal. I share with you not only what I bought or what I'm buying, but why I buy it, because the why is the most important part. And realize that when I'm buying things, I'm just taking risks. I'm taking what I feel are higher probability plays. But do you know, when the probability of something is 80%, that 1 in 5 times it's going to fail? So some of these ones that even I buy do fail, and that's okay, because I diversify across a bunch of them, and knowing that some will fail, but the ones that succeed, if I wait till the bigger narrative runs, the gains are so massive it makes up for the ones that do fail. And this is just a strategy that I've seen in the last 8 years that has worked the best over time for the biggest gains. There are lots of strategies you could take in the crypto space. You could take trading day to day, but I don't know anyone in the crypto space that is really successful with that outperforms the strategy that I share. Most of the people that I know that have made really good money in crypto have done the same strategy that I'm sharing with you all the time. In fact, I really saw that pattern emerge in 2020, 2021, and I was like, that is the pattern to share with everyone, because I saw people that weren't necessarily more brilliant than everyone else make amazing money that way. So I thought, that is the kind of pattern that if people understand, they can do really well with. Now, supposedly I know one person that's made amazing money through day trading and swing trading for like 2 or 3 week periods. Haven't ever seen his actual money, but okay, so that's 1 out of like 20,000 people. Is that very duplicatable? Probably not. What I know is most people trying to do day trading get wrecked. Do love that Paul comes on and shares you his rules. It's really rare that somebody's been in this kind of trading for 30 years and been successful. Most people get washed out. So this is just another way of helping you learn from his insights, learn from his rules, and so that you can see his point of view and how he looks at things, which is different from my point of view. But he has also been successful for a long time doing what he's doing. I just have focused on what I see as the most successful pattern within the crypto space that I've tried to duplicate and I've tried to improve. Because though I did really, really well in 2021, I could have done even better. But some of it was just going through the patterns to see what patterns were the most successful, so I could then share it with you. It's looking like 2025 is going to go much, much better, with not only higher percentages of projects that ultimately succeeded, but overall higher gains on average too. But we'll see how this plays out. We're still in the middle of it. 2025 is definitely not over yet, and the party is just getting started, and the rains are coming. Make no mistake. Might not feel like it right now as things came down a little bit. It's like, oh my gosh, is this still going to happen? Oh, it is, and it's going to be big, and it's going to be life-changing for so many of you. We'll see y'all soon.
to the space, chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, you're bad before you're good. Was taught to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always made the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road, cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. They go with the hate, they the haters be crafting. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.